Hey everybody, it's Beth Hathoot here again with another CommuniTip brought to you by Notary Stars. This session is special today because we're shedding a little light onto the notary advocacy community in the state of Maryland. As most of you know, all of us at Notary Stars are dedicated to bringing you information that can help support you in your notary journey. Our homepage at notarystars.com displays logos and links out to various state advocacy groups that we feel are dedicated to contributing to your success. Today, we're adding another badge on our homepage for an advocacy group called Maryland Notaries in Action. Candace Willie is our guest today, and she has taken time out of her busy schedule to introduce us to their mission and purpose. Candace, thanks so much for being our guest today. Could you please just take a moment and introduce yourself? And then I would like to walk with you through an interview type of format today.
Thank you very much, Beth. I am very happy to be here. And I would like to say I would not be here if it wasn't for Felicia Bass from White Rose Notary Services bringing you attention to our group here in Maryland. So I really appreciate her doing that because I was not a part of the group and she spoke up very highly about what we were doing here in Maryland just recently for the regulations that just passed this year and last year. So thank you for that. So I am here in Maryland. My notary business is the Signature Pros, and Maryland Notaries in Action is the advocacy group that I informally started back in 2022 when I came across an announcement on the Secretary of State's website and noticed that regulations were being proposed for increased fees. And so I started doing a lot of research and found out that notaries could actually have a say in how the regulations go. So I started calling notaries.
Surprise, huh?
Yeah. So I started calling notaries and asking them, did they know about this? Did they see it on the website? What do you think? And we started having these conversations on the phone. We had meetings in Clubhouse, and there were people that were interested in helping to create a plan to see what we can do to have our voices heard at that time. So we organized what we knew that we could do. The knowledge was limited. It's grown a little bit more since then. And we started phone banking and calling other notaries just by going to our Secretary of State website and looking up their information, creating a plan around sending a letter to senators. And we did what we thought we could do to get people engaged and participating in sending public comments in.
So when did that happen? When did you start doing that? And when did you develop a core mission for your advocacy focus?
The mission came along this year when another regulation came up. Again, fee increases. And so I decided to be a little bit more intentional and registered the entity with the state and asked for some help from a couple of people that know the political arena a lot better than me. To give me some guidance on what it is that I should do in order to get attention of delegates and senators. So we got the registration done. We wrote letters to each and every senator on, it's called the AELR committee. Those are the individuals that review the regulations before they're adopted to make sure they align with all the requirements. We, out of, I think, about 30 members, I got one response. I was very excited about that because nobody else responded, but he responded, thanked me for putting him on notice. And from that point on, I didn't hear anything else from the group. We had a petition this time also, and we still have it available to sign. It's just not something that we're currently actively pushing because the regulation has passed. The
Okay.
secretaries state decided to adopt it as is.
So,
We
so really just this year, you're just getting started with your advocacy group, and you call it Maryland Notaries in Action, right?
Yes, so it's
Okay.
formal this year. Yes.
Okay. So let's take baby steps here. So your association structure is what?
So we are for profit. I have not decided if that's going to stay that way or if it's going to turn into a nonprofit. I need still more advice on the person that I have sought help from about whether or not it's okay to stay a for-profit or it's better to be a nonprofit. So we're at that place right now where it's not finalized, but I know that I need to be careful before I make a decision.
Okay, so you're new, you're growing, you seem to be very active already in kind of getting your foot in the door of some of these regulations that are being submitted to Congress and Senate, and all of your challenges that you're already dealing with right out of the gate as being a brand new association. What are some of the biggest challenges that you think notaries in Maryland are facing today?
I would say, and it may seem something you haven't heard of, but they're not even being able to follow the process of the application correctly. And that's the most basic thing that could get you started as a notary. So because I talk to the Secretary of State, I would say a few times a month, I've had conversations about notaries not even really understanding the application process. Being able to complete it and get sworn in is also a challenge that has been discussed. So one of the steps that I am taking and making an effort towards hopefully clarifying and making it more simplistic is making videos on the website about the application process itself to hopefully get people to do it correctly and go through with the whole process to become a notary.
Awesome. So the biggest challenge is just getting to the point where you can get your commission in Maryland. Very interesting. You're right. That wouldn't be something I would have guessed to be a problem, but sure. If you can't get past the first step, then that's a problem for sure.
Yes.
So since you have been kind of stirring the waters and trying to make things move in a direction that's more favorable to notaries and to the consumer, can you share some of the association's recent successes in advocating for notaries' interest?
I want to say it was a success for the petition. We got 567 people to sign the petition, which was great. However, we needed more people to send their public comment directly to the Secretary of State Department because that number was very low the year before. So the quote from last year is about 90,000 notaries in Maryland, and only 11 submitted public comment. So that's also a challenge, to go back to what you said earlier. People don't even know about the public comment process to be able to submit a public comment. And this year, the number went down to 4 public comments being submitted. So maybe we have to look at how we can get people to sign the petition and understand that they still need to put in public comment. Because they might have thought signing the petition served as the public comment, and that's not the same thing. We wanted to show a unified effort. So that's why we did the petition, to be able to share that with the Secretary of State Department. But we also wanted people to submit the public comment as well to directly the email address.
And most notaries just don't realize they have that voice, right?
No, they don't. Now, a lot of people that were contacted by phone had no clue that the fee was being raised, that it was a proposal that was available for them to even comment on. It was all like brand new to them. A lot of people become notaries and they don't do a lot with their commission and they're out of the loop of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, interesting. That's education for the notaries on the political side of their job, right? Letting them realize that they do have a voice and they might affect a change in what laws are proposed and adopted, right?
Yes.
Big challenge for you to get notaries to realize that and to encourage them to participate in that process. That's all an educational process that you're going to have to engage in as a advocacy group. And that's kind of why we're doing this. We want to make Maryland or allow Maryland notaries to realize that there are advocacy groups, and you're not the only one. There are a couple of them in Maryland that they can join and use their voice in unison to be able to affect positive changes in notarial law for your state.
Mm-hmm.
The other educational piece that I find a lot of advocacy groups do is just resources, adding resources for training programs to notaries to stay up to date on just their own state regulations. Does your group offer that yet, or is that something you're not going to be focusing on?
There is a way for notaries to stay up to date, whether they follow Maryland Notaries in Action or not. It is public access. They can go to their Maryland General Assembly website. Some states will call it legislative website. And they can also go to something called LegiScan, which is for all of the states and the US territories. And they can look up and get look up bills. They can get alerts when bills are proposed and be connected that way. That's what I use for my way of learning what's going on in the legislative arena.
Okay, so legislative tracking is what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how does your organization track all of those bills coming in to your legislative levels? For how do you track those to see whether they're a good bill, something that could benefit you, something you want to support, or something you want to oppose? How do you keep track of those?
You can create a profile in these platforms that I mentioned and track the bills that way. And you can, and it's not like it's an abundance of bills flowing in for Notary Publics.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at just Notary Publics, you'll probably be okay. You'll probably see one or two directly affecting Notary Publics. But if you want to follow multiple bills, then you have to come up with a system on how you're going to be able to track those things. You can track them in your profile and they'll be listed there, whatever bill, like you can put in a keyword, and whatever that keyword is, you can be alerted about those specific types of bills.
So on your website for Maryland Notaries in Action, do you post those proposed bills on your website?
Yes, I do. So the last bill that was proposed is up there. And we actually keep a timeline on our website of all the efforts that we make throughout the entire process. We'll talk about, this is the day we sent the letters out to the Senate, or the letter was drafted for the senators. This is the day we sent the letter out to the senators. And we just keep track of all the activities that we do. And you can see that on our website. So there's a section right now called Proposed Regulations where you can find that. And the year before, we didn't do that. We didn't have a website. So we will plan to do that moving forward.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. That could be one centralized location for notaries who maybe don't want to go to Legiscan and track those bills. They can go right to your website and see what's going on and see. And are there initiatives or ways for notaries to become involved and to assist Maryland notaries in action as well?
That's where I have to be very careful because I can't do any type of volunteerism because it's a for-profit now. By law, you're not allowed to have volunteers for-profit businesses. So I'm still thinking on how people can get engaged now that I'm legitimately registered as a for-profit entity. So I don't have an answer to that question for you right just yet. But people prior to registering the business were volunteering their time, call banking, helping to draft letters, and just spreading the word. I mean, you can spread the word in conversation, talking
Yep,
about this
exactly.
is going on. I know that there
And
were
you
no.
can sign petitions and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could, yeah, enter your voice in public comment as
yeah,
well, for
yeah,
sure.
yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll bring all of those things up. We have brought all of those things up for people to be able to do in the past so that they're aware. So now I have a platform where it'll be on the website to let people know that they can do those things.
awesome. That's perfect. Do you have resources or guidance specifically tailored to help notaries advocate for themselves at the state level?
Yeah, so I draft the letters and they can take the letter and add their information to it and send it off directly.
Oh, perfect. See, she's doing all of the work for you guys. There's no reason not to get involved. Seriously. Last couple of questions here. We do have, there are opportunities for engagement. We kind of touched on this already, where you were talking about you're a for-profit company rather than not for profit. So volunteering and those types of things is a little bit not described for you yet. But are there any other opportunities for engagement? How can notaries get involved with the association efforts and contribute to its work?
The one thing that I'm working on that's coming up soon is I'm going to have a shop on the website so you can visibly show your support by wearing Maryland Notaries in Action apparel. So that's one way that people can get involved. And it becomes a conversation piece. I've had a few folks ask me, what does 2550 mean when I'm walking down the street with my hat on or standing in line? And that is what Maryland law allows, which is $25 for an in-person notarial act and $50 for a remote notarial act. However, the law also states that the Secretary of State can decide how much of that 25 and 50 that we get. So that is why I am promoting 2550, because it should be, in my opinion, the way the law states. And so we will have to work on legislation to be able to get that to be the way the law states and not allow the Secretary of State to make the decision even after the law has been put in place. So that's where a new law would come in.
So 2550 is the current law, but the Secretary of State says you can't charge that.
Correct.
And they're giving you another fee, a lower fee that you can charge.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. We all know that the Secretary of State in some instances has the final say. We've been there before in Arizona. I'm in Arizona, and we've had situations where the law is written and then it says subject to Secretary of State ruling. or Secretary of State Administrative Code. And they can write an administrative code that doesn't even resemble what the regulation actually reads. So that presents several problems for us as notaries. We think we're looking at a regulation and we don't know there's another piece or could be another piece to that puzzle that we have to deal with. So
Yes, that's important to know because the regulations are really an interpretation of the law. It makes it more simplistic to understand the regulations. The law can be sometimes challenging to read if you don't have that background to understand the lingo. But I think sometimes people forget that the regulations are not the laws. However, the Secretary of State is responsible for interpreting the law.
yes. All right. We are coming to a close here, Candace. This has been really informative. I so appreciate your time today. Your thoughts on the future of the notary profession. So in your view, what does the future hold for the notary profession, and how is your association preparing notaries for potential changes?
This was a loaded question, and I know I got it in advance.
You did. We're not springing anything on you by surprise.
No,
but
ma'am.
it is a deep question, I know.
It is. I believe that things are definitely getting better because I'm seeing more states requiring education as a prerequisite before you become a notary. Here in Maryland, we started in 2021. We have about a year and a half to go, I think, to get through all of the notaries for the training piece. But I definitely see the education getting better as the years progress. I hope that the education will get better on the legislative side because that's where all of the stuff that we have in our handbook guides us through our day-to-day activities. Our fees have increased, so it's not all grim. They have increased, but I believe that with inflation and economics and everything that's going on, notaries in Maryland don't really have the same opportunities with the fees like other states do. Especially because we are restricted on mileage as well. And other states are able to agree with the customer what the mileage or the travel fee is going to be. So I would like to see that in the future change for Maryland notaries so that we can be, I think, on an economical playing field. Maryland is a very wealthy state. I put that in my petition. And it seems like all the other areas like taxes are going up and food and everything is going up, but the notary is left like the last person to be thought about when it comes to small businesses. I don't think people look at it as a business. And
That's true. We are a public servant and we're not supposed to be making a profit off of the common folk. So that's always been an issue in all 50 states. So
but there are other public service that get paid well. So
yeah, some do. You're right. Yeah.
Not understanding that part about us being public servants, and we are, I just guess, I feel like sometimes we're just forgotten about.
We are, unless we make some noise, right?
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point. How do people find Maryland Notaries in Action? Do you have a website you can share with us? Do you have a resource page that you want to share on a screen that we can look at as we close out our CommuniTip? That could be our screen that will be the last thing they see when we close out today.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you very much.
So MarylandNotariesInAction.net or .org or .com?
.com.
.com. Candace Woolley, is the driving force behind Maryland Notaries in Action. And I would like everybody to realize that you don't have to be a Maryland notary to be a supporter of notaries in Maryland. So we support, Notary Stars is based out of Arizona, but we support every notary advocacy group that we can. Because adding our voices to the mix, you don't have to be a Maryland notary to vote on Maryland regulations. You need to know, well, vote on, have your voice heard, have a petition signed, right? And you need to know when Maryland is looking to pass a regulation, they're going to look at other states as well for their clue as to where they might land on their decisions. So even if you live in Arizona or California or Montana or Texas, supporting your other notary states when issues come up helps you in a roundabout way, because your state eventually will look to all of the other states to see what regulations have they passed and why. Candace, thank you so much for being our guest today. I appreciate you. There's also a Legiscan website that you wanted to share.
Yes, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
This is Legiscan, and you can create a free account here. There's also paid accounts depending on how deep you want to go. So you would go and register here and create your own account, and you select the state that you are looking for. If you know the bill number, you can type it in, or you can use the search box. So you could just type in notary, and it will show you the bills related to.
That's super helpful. And that's for all 50 states, everybody.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to track your own state, this is where you would go for sure. That's super helpful, Candace. Thanks for showing us that as well. Everyone, thanks for popping in to watch this latest video. And remember, you can watch the entire CommuniTip series on our YouTube channel's homepage. Candace, again, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you. And you can pop into Monday General Mentorships at any time if you want to give us an update on what's going on in Maryland. Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.